welcome to Bitcoin Pizza Day 2025 by G Crypto and Bitbinas. Today, we're celebrating the Bitcoin pizza story that started it all. When someone bought 2 boxes of pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins. Please welcome the head of G Crypto, the author of Crypto Day newsletter, Mr. Luis Buenaventura.
You can have your own version of buy, borrow, and die, regardless of the amount. It doesn't have to be a house. It could be 0.01 Bitcoin. Magkano rin yung 0.01? That's like 50,000 pesos right now. But the idea is, the reason why you can't do buy, borrow, and die the traditional way is because the average person cannot actually acquire the assets that you need in order to borrow against. However, Bitcoin changes that because now, if you buy Bitcoin and you buy even in just small amounts, you can borrow against it and you can use Bitcoin as your parang long-term savings account. When is the right time to sell? In this version of your financial strategy, the correct time to sell is never. You never have to sell your Bitcoin because you can always just hold on to it and then you just borrow against it as needed.
Siguro yung nagustuhan ko sa event since this is my first Bitcoin Pizza Day this year. Sobrang excited, sobrang nag-enjoy ako, especially with the talks as well. Nagustuhan ko yung talk ni Luis. I learned a lot. And yung mga, syempre, highlight of the day, yung pizza. So, yan.
Time to dive into our Crypto PH conversations. Listen to top voices in the crypto community to share their take on Bitcoin and beyond. Let's welcome our panelists.
And sobrang saya ng event na to today dahil ang dami nating natutunan sa mga panelists, sa mga speakers, and also kay Sir Luis Gitolas na siguro yun yung pinaka-favorite part ko dito sa event na to when Luis explained why you shouldn't sell your Bitcoin, and I think I'll apply it in the future pag yumaman ako. So right now, sobrang enjoy, ang daming pizza, ang dami ko nakilalang mga bagong community and bagong phases. So thank you so much Gcash and Gcrypto. Bye-bye!
Alright, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat at welcome sa panibagong episode ng Bitpinas Webcast kung saan pinag-uusapan natin ang mga pinakamahalagang issue sa crypto at Web3, lalo na yung mga nakakapekto sa atin dito sa Pilipinas. At ayun nga, no, nakita natin yung video from Bitcoin Pizza Day. So that was May 22 and mukhang 2 buwan na since our last Bitpinas meetup. No, so if someone, no, if there is a demand to do actually another meetup, lalo na ngayong may init yung mga crypto news, no, baka pwede natin gawin by August or September. Just let us know sa ating comment section. Alright, so ako po si Michael Mislos, ang editor-in-chief ng Bitpinas. Bago tayo magsimula, kung gusto nyong suportahan ang isang independent crypto news website gaya ng Bitpinas, pwede kayong mag-subscribe sa ating Facebook fan subscription. No, meron kayong exclusive updates at mga behind the scenes ng aming mga content for 135 pesos per month, no? Makakatulong kayo to help us produce more content like this, like itong webcast na ginagawa natin ngayon. Hanapin lang ang subscribe button sa aming Facebook page, or kung nanonood kayo right now, nandyan lang yan sa lower left, no? May heart button dyan. Pwede kayo mag-subscribe right now. Yon. So, sa 7 taon nating nagsusulat dito sa webcast, no? I mean sa Bitpinas, magsusulat tayo about crypto, ganyan, about Web3, hindi natin, never kong in-expect na at some point, we will get to write about anime, no? And or even interview someone behind the scenes. And lahat naman tayo siguro at some point, or at least many of the people that I know, my friends in real life, actually watch anime, no? At one point or another, even now. So, sa mga nasa comment section dyan, no, ito na yung time nyo. Ano ba yung napanood yung, again, I can't believe na ginagawa natin to ngayon, no? I mean, for a crypto news site. Ano ba yung mga paborito nyong anime na pinapanood ngayon or napanood nyo in the past? No, malay nyo, baka manalo kayo after webcast kapag shinare nyo yan sa amin. Alright? No? Yon. Sino to? Yamete. Okay. So, going back, no, in relation to anime, okay, no, itong mga sinesend na mga anime dito ni Kazuhide, nako, gusto mong ma-take down tayo dito sa webcast natin ngayon. So, yun, no, going back, no, sa ating webcast or sa Web3, what if in the future, we do not just watch anime, di ba? What if we actually get to decide what anime will get produced or what anime gets made? Kasi right now, that specific part of anime production or yung mismong production is still hidden behind the closed doors, ika nga, no? And disconnected to the global fan base. So we believe, however, that this is starting to change. And our two guests tonight are right at the center of this ship, no? So we are joined tonight by two professionals in the Web3 space. First, we have Mr. John Bowie, the Chief Business Officer of Crossroad, which is a project affiliated with TB Asahi Group, which is building tools to let fans participate in anime development from the earliest stages and not just after release. Hi, John, and welcome to the Bitpinas webcast. How are you tonight?
Hey, Michael, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John, for joining our webcast. The next one, we have Mr. L. Bonuan, and a creative technologist, game producer, and artist at Maiba Studios. And I also cannot believe this is your first time here, El, no, in our webcast, or not?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
This is
is.
your first time, no? I mean, it should have been before, pero sige. So, L naman is pioneering yung mga decentralized storytelling and community-driven IP here in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. He is with Sandbox and many other uh, companies, no, that he is doing. So, he wears a lot of hat, and maybe he can tell us more during the course of our webcast. All right. So, ngayon, no, we are going to explore how Web3 is being used not for speculation, not for crypto, but actually for creative participation ng fans to create anime, no? So without their need to code, to invest. And why does this matter, no? For Crossroad, for L, why does this matter for creators here right now in the Philippines and in the communities in this region in Southeast Asia? All right. That was very long, no? Sorry. But yeah, we think we need to go to our introductions. John, first of all, again, thank you for joining us. So maybe you can tell us a bit of your background, what got you into anime, what got you into TV Asahi, and then up to this point, no, not that now you are in Crossroad. So tell us a brief journey of yours into Web3, John.
Yeah, so my journey into Web3 is actually really long, so I'll just try to condense it. I started back in 2011, 2012 when I first bought Bitcoin. So I was like super early investor when it was like under $100, right?
Oh
Got
my,
really into it. I was originally working traditional finance and a few other companies like that. Kind of got tired of just working 9 to 5 corporate back in America and decided I want to try my hand at crypto. So I started working with a variety of different companies, exchanges, launchpads, projects, etc. Kind of utilizing my skill set of like just sales, marketing, finance, etc. Just to see what I can do to help push the market because Bitcoin effectively helped me a lot in terms of my early like monetary needs, and I wanted to see what I could do to kind of build that same benefit for other people around me. But besides that, you did mention what got me into anime. I've always been a big anime nerd. I'm really into like One Piece, 86. I watched Code
Right.
Geass and Guilty Crown back in the day. So like anything with an emotional tie was actually with anime, and I started probably since like high school or maybe even middle school, if not younger, right? And I think everyone was able to watch like Dragon Ball Z back in the day. So that's my ties with anime. So effectively I decided to see, okay, if I can combine my two passions, right, and just try my hand in a
Mm.
new country, because back in a couple years ago, crypto wasn't strong in America, right? It was being scrutinized by the SEC. So I really couldn't find a career path there within crypto. So I decided to see what I can do in Asia. And it was a bounce between, did I want to go to Vietnam because I can speak the language and I'm personally Vietnamese, or did I want to, just take a chance and see what I can do in Japan. So I went into Japan, I met with one of the directors over there from TV Asahi. We clicked almost instantly, and about like 1 or 2 weeks later, we were just discussing how we can all work together. And that effectively just sealed the deal. I started working with TV Asahi pretty much ever since, or related to TV Asahi ever since.
All right. No, so that was actually I don't know. I think that was actually very inspirational on how you actually did not just stay in one place and find the opportunity elsewhere. And how about merging the passion that you have with anime and all your other creative outlets to actually do your work right now, no? So thank you for mentioning that, and also thank you for mentioning Code Geass, no? So now I know John's age based on that alone, no? Thank you, John, for that one. So um or maybe you watched the ano, I mean there are two seasons, three, then the OVAs. But yeah, enough of that. So now
Release
we go with
early.
yes, no. El, no, thank you again for joining our webcast, and maybe a brief introduction as well on how what got you into Web3, El.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me here. Nice to meet you, John. I think this is a long time coming. I've been, contributing, having like my, marketing Web3 here in the Philippines and abroad for the past 4 or so years. But prior to that, I graduated from an interior design program here in the Philippines. Super far-fetched to go from interior design to, Web3. But you guys remember like the huge pandemic lockdown we have here in the Philippines. That didn't allow me to like get jobs on site. So I had to be creative in how I applied my course or program to find a job. That landed me in the doorsteps of like the metaverse back in 2020.
Mm.
And being an interior designer lent this, skill set of being able to design, do space planning, programming, the way people interact with the space, and game development. So I just, tore the tape off and just dove straight into game development, and that's how I met folks in the sandbox. At the time I was dubbed like the interior designer for the metaverse back then, because like huge metaverse projects don't have really anything inside. It's just huge buildings and platforms and people chatting in chat, right? So that was like a whole new dimension of people being able to go inside, experience like simulators and Somnium Space, Decentraland, and all of those stuff. So that's how I got my feet wet. Eventually, I founded my own studio, Soulbox Labs, which has been featured a couple of times in BTS articles. And then eventually finding my own creative niche of being like a designer, an artist, a technologist, and most especially like culture like pusher. Like I try to make weird stuff happen, especially in the creative sense. Um Anime per se, the first thing that I remember drawing when I was a kid was Son Goku. Like Goku from Dragon Balls. The spiky hair, Super Saiyan,
like the weird shaped eyes. That was like super distinct. I remember failing a lot of math exams back then because instead of like writing the solutions, I was doodling Goku's head. And that was like a core memory of me growing up. I've been into like the creative freelance space for over a decade, and that lent well into developing my own business in Web3 as a professional. And as I told you, Michael, before the call, this is like a really apt space for me since I've been a huge weeb all my life, and that made like Weeb3 such a cool topic to start the webcast off.
All right. No, thank you, L, on that one. No, so yeah, we're go step from Web 3 to Web 3. I really
Honestly, I
like
love
the
the
I don't
term.
know. Yeah, I really love the term as well. So it can be its own its own category actually, no. So yeah, now we move to the to our first topic right now, no. So I think this is first for John, and then L would I would love your insights on this one, no. Since John, you were you know what is behind the scenes, no. What one we know that anime there are seasons, etc. So before the season that anime gets announced, etc. But we know that there's a long time coming before and actually gets to Crunchyroll or to Netflix, etc. So maybe John, just very briefly, how does anime get produced, and what do you think is the problem right now on that specifically
Oh,
for
sure.
John?
So this is this is a fun educational topic because literally no one has any idea what happens behind the scenes. I personally didn't either. But effectively, what happens is they kind of gauge the traction on manga book sales, right? Like
Mm,
after the manga is published, let's see how many copies it sold. If it sold like 100, 200K domestically, that is enough to kind of push it out. The problem with that, though, is you don't understand what the global market is. And probably anywhere from 60 to 70% of revenue, like average, derives internationally. So you're
mm,
using a metric of only 30% of the revenue, which is Japan, to gauge whether a manga is going to be successful, right? Or manga, sorry, I'm like mispronouncing it. But effectively, how it's kind of set up for anime production is after you determine that it goes well in basically the domestic market, you queue it up for what's called a production committee. So they form what's called a production committee, like the author or the publisher, which could be like Kodansha, Shueisha, the producers of Jump magazine, for example, right? They come together, they start asking around like, who do we want to be part of this anime production, and that dives into specific rights, right? So you'll have like, for example, Netflix will take international streaming. You'll take, for example, our company TV Asahi might take domestic broadcasting. You'll have game companies, you'll have merchandise companies, you'll have advertisement stations. They all basically combine as an enterprise, form the production committee, and they'll put together a budget for the anime production, right? So it might be anywhere from 2.5 million to 5 million USD to form an anime. So everyone knows the jokes about like, oh, all the animation budget went to like Gojo's eyes, for example, right? That is legitimately true. They figure out
That's
how
okay.
much of the budget it is because they have basically a set amount. They can't exceed it or below it. It is set during the production committee, right? And then the people that are in the production committee are a bunch of people that have contributed the money, but in return they get the rights. So you might see like Konami Bandai making the merchandise, right? You'll see Netflix Crunchyroll having international streaming, or Bilibili, for example, right? Or even Hulu in some cases and stuff like that. And then for like merchandise, you'll see a bunch of different stores. The thing about merchandise though is no one can claim exclusive rights because there's just so many different things with merchandise. You have, stickers, you have physical goods, you have hardware, like whatever you name it. But you can claim a specific right regarding merchandise. Like let's say I want to do computer hardware, like mouses and keyboards and stuff. I can actually ask for that right based on the jurisdiction. So that's kind of like how the animation production and rights are secured. Now, on that note, how they kind of track whether it's going to do good internationally is using a site, which I'm pretty sure most of you guys are familiar with, called My Anime List, right? Everyone kind of
mm,
tracks whether the anime that they watch is on there. But the problem is, why are you using something where people kind of track like, oh, I've already watched this anime, I'm gonna like check mark this and keep track of it, right? For something that hasn't been produced yet. There's no gauge, there's no market metric. No one understands whether it's going to be good or not, right? So they're using domestic measurement and my anime list to gauge international traction for something that's upcoming. So you guys can see the inherent problem there. The other problem is the fact that because they have made most of their money domestically over the last couple decades, now with everything going international, they have no idea really how to market it to other users, whether that's people in the Philippines, people in America, people in Vietnam, Europe, etc. They have no idea, right? It's a brand new territory for them, which is kind of why we started Crossroad to try to bridge that gap, bring an international community to give them insights, market data, and resolve this problem. And also because of this, now they'll know whether this anime is going to do well or is it going to flop or is the quality like needing adjustment, right? I don't know if you guys have seen the beginning after the end. That was a very hyped manhwa that was coming out. It got established like, okay, we're gonna make an anime for it. Everyone got excited. Then they saw the studio and the animation quality behind it, and then we saw how it flopped. Right? With Crossroad, we could have prevented that. That's a good indicator. So
Mm.
I'll stop here and just kind of let you guys piecemeal that.
All right, yeah, I actually learned a lot, no, on that one alone, and I cannot believe they are using my anime list to track all those stuff, no. But I did vividly remember my anime list got acquired and reacquired, etc. by Dena, if I remember, no, the Japanese company, and all
Yep.
the others, no. And I mean, I'm not saying I was active there, no, but I just remember what happened at that time. So now we go to the Web3 solution that you guys, Crossroad and L, with your expertise, are actually looking at, either proposing or actually seeing, no, on how it could help, no, on the anime problem, or on the content problem, actually, in general, no. So L, this question goes to you first, no, with the stuff that you have seen in Web3 in the last decade, not just with crypto, but definitely with Web3, with the sandbox, with IPs. What was that? Your first ano else, Sobox Lab, 'di ba? Those
Yes, yes, that's
things,
yeah.
no? So how do you see Web3 solving the anime problem that John mentioned earlier?
Okay, so let's preface this with saying Web3 is like the next step or like the evolution of Web2. A lot of people like go through Web3 and think that's just blockchain, that's just crypto. But with Web3, it's like a decentralized web, right? I'm actually wearing a shirt right now from Mob Psycho 100. So
Goodness,
I'm not sure if
yes.
that's okay
Okay.
to show here, but it's one of my favorite stories of like how one
Mm-mm.
creator, like literally one, the creator of One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100, got from his like web tune, like his web novel, not novel, like just scribbles. Like you've seen it or probably have seen it, and it eventually transformed into like the polished Murata style of like One Punch Man, and then got produced by Bones to this polished Sakuga level anime that just blew the charts off some 10 years ago. And that's like one way that I could describe Web3 being strong at. Like this community, like decentralized way of like getting people together to band behind an IP or behind an idea and produce something like really, really well. If you guys know that story of like how One Punch Man became this huge season one like wonder, like it's really it encapsulates what I feel anime in Web3 could be like. Um, one was about to give up on his like One Punch Man manga. Then it got picked up by Murata, the artist and author of like Aishil 21.
Mm.
And then got serialized into a manga drawn by him, and then got into an anime by all these like studio veterans, just loving the art style, loving the concept, and just pouring their hearts out into this like cool IP. That's what Web3 can do. Like people in X, like previously Twitter, they discover a lot of like cool new artists, cool new IPs, cool new ideas that they could just randomly pick up, support, and
Mm-mm.
we've seen this in NFTs, right? People can support like an idea all the way to the end, from ideation to
Mm.
conceptualization to execution to actual product. It has happened. We're seeing pudgy penguins do that. So a lot of like Web3 infrastructure, like DAOs, NFTs, tokens, all of those can be used in conjunction with supporting a new thing, like an idea from point A to point Z. And I feel like something as ubiquitous as anime, from manga, light novel, um, to like an actual physical thing to products merch, and then eventually an anime, could very well be like a new renaissance of ideas being actualized. Having a crossroad, like I've seen like the light paper, I mean, it gives this idea that everyone has a say. And I feel like as a frustrated anime fan for so long, having all my manga either be axed by Jump, like after just 6, 7 months of like serialization, to like having manga and light novels not getting an anime adaptation even after so many years of it being finished. It's frustrating. Like there's this huge fandom across the world just backing this thing, but in Japan it's not clicking. So that's like a problem for me. And there's zero visibility in Japan, but there's this huge cult following across the world. There's this disconnect, as John said, with having like 30% of like the domestic market be the like leading voice, what gets produced, what gets animated. And it's just a disservice to a lot of like creative IPs that I feel like would benefit more if given the chance to be, animated, produced, or given new life in other, mediums. And I feel like Crossroads could do that. Like that's why I was genuinely excited to be here.
Yeah, that's
Thank
actually.
you.
Oh, sorry, I was
Sure,
gonna
John,
jump.
go ahead.
That's actually what we're trying to resolve. So one of the things is there is a lot of anime that again doesn't get produced, and there's a lot of ones that kind of miss the, um,
Mm-mm.
just kind of miss the lens of being able to raise, right? Because what we want to do at Crossroad is bring more IP to life. Our overall intention is bringing more IP into the world because there's only so many stories that we can really play around with, and there's a limit to how much we can produce. But the demand and appetite for anime is just constantly a growing and exponentially
Mm-mm.
increasing in terms of just visibility, right? So if we can bring the fandom to be able to actually put their name where their mouth is and be able to invest, bring stories to life while also retaining a percentage of ownership for contributing and bringing it to reality. Like that's kind of what we want to bring to the Web3 world, right? Imagine you have a piece of, I don't know, the next One Punch Man, right? That'd be sick as hell. I would want to pitch in for that, right?
You would love that, bro.
So yeah, it's a way to bring more IP to life, and we also want to bring original ideas, not just within
Mm.
Japan, right? Because most of the time, if you want something to be produced, it has to be within a Japanese author. But there's so many good stories out there. Like we're seeing the rise of Korean manhwas with webtoons, right? We're
Yep,
seeing the rise of Chinese manhwas,
yep.
with some of their stories, and some of them are getting like adaptations and kicking it off really well. For example, like if you guys have seen on the Korea side, like some of their animes have been insane. Like Solo Leveling is one
Yep.
of the most popular animes of all time,
Popular.
right?
That
And
that kept
it
me alive in
just
college.
yeah, it just solidifies the amount of ideas and content that people can actually work with, but they just haven't been exposed. So if we can bring that into Japan, bring it to really legit anime studios, that's gonna be insane for me. Like as an anime watcher, I read both like webtoons in Korea as well as like Chinese manhwas. I really want to see some of those stories. I was really excited for TBATE. Like I'm gonna bring that back because I'm so salty about that. But I really was hoping for a good studio to pick that up.
At this point, I just want to listen to what to both of you, no, because it's actually very interesting for me, no, also as a fan and as a writer, because before I was writing about crypto, that was what I was writing, no, I mean anime reviews, video games, etc. And
So similar.
what is this? Yeah, I wanted to comment if specifically on what John and you L mentioned, no? To John, what you mentioned about the fact that there are now that not recently not many anime, or rather many anime are coming out of Korea and China, and that is correct, no? Before, that was almost impossible, or what I mean is that there's this perception that if it is not from a Japanese author,
Yeah.
then it is not an anime. So I think I remember that particular one. um so and then another one is what El mentioned, which you John also kind of mentioned, about the fact that there are some great content out there that has did not have a chance, to be an anime. And I remember specifically, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's this shonen jump manga called Siren. So this was quite a long time ago, and it never became an anime, but it was actually really good. So okay, I'm checking the comment section, no, but it is Psyren, no? So another manga that never got an anime production. And I believe the Western fans are actually salty about it. So maybe if
Salty.
Crossroad is going, no, so it's something that can happen. So now going to Crossroad now, John, no. So I wanted first to understand on the seeding side, or rather the initial side of things, no, on the early stage. How does early stage participation is possible with Crossroad when it comes to producing or supporting anime IP or other IPs in the future? What is the early stage? How does early stage looks like?
Yeah, so early stage, and this is actually surprising. We had a talk about a couple hours ago regarding the product
Hmm?
side. We're looking to onboard actually creative side. So, El, we would love to kind of have you on board for that. We want to bring in user generated content for conceptual, like artist renditions of different IPs, right? Just to kind of showcase like the amount of creativity, the amount of ideation that can be possible, and provide this as one, just like a go-to market, just so that we can start sharing around, and two, so that the animation studios can have like ideas of like who to reach out to, what we can kind of bring in. Maybe they can gather some stories and actually immortalize it, whether it's in specific digital content in games or even in an anime, right? Because one of the I think biggest points of pride for creative is seeing something in like a product you would consume, whether that's TV, a movie, or like a game, etc. Right. The other way is what I was mentioning before, would be regarding like investing into the anime committee. We want to open up the
Mm.
possibility to invest into the production committee yourselves. It's not owning it entirely. That's kind of like impossible given the current production committee setup. But if we're able to kind of fractionalize some of that ownership, that is something we are able to do within Crossroad. So we're looking at it kind of like an RWA, but for anime, right?
Mm-mm.
So if you actually think about how RWA works, it's basically real world assets tied to a specific thing that, for example, if it's real estate, gives rent, but anime gives royalties, right? If you invest into an anime and you get the rights, it's not just the rights you get, but you also receive a portion of the royalties or the rev share that gets produced by the entirety of the animation production committee. So let's say let's use Gundam as an example, right? If you actually Google the metrics, Gundam made $50 million in merchandise sales just last year. If you were part of the production committee and you own 10% of that, even if it's something completely unrelated, like for example, I don't know, advertising or DVD sales, right? You would still retain that even to this day. So if you own 10% of that for DVD sales, you're making $5 million doing freaking nothing, right? It's just all royalties. And that's kind of like what we're trying to allow users to kind of get in and on board of, is like, if users are able to make specific anime viral, they love it, they're able to share it with their
Mm-mm.
friends, it gets more popular, they're also now financially incentivized too. And I think if you're also like partially an owner of an anime, you'll take a lot of pride and pretty much broadcast your love of that specific anime to the world. And that benefits the anime committee, because instead of them worrying so much about marketing spend or anything like that,
Mm-mm.
they have a passionate community that gets the art that they're trying to produce, and it's something that the artist can receive feedback on.
Yes, no, that's actually very interesting, no, because of how it would work that way. El, can you comment on that one a bit? Because I
Yep,
feel that
definitely.
it's like an evolution on how NFTs, no, like how artists does it on OpenSea priorly, right? Like they're
Right.
going to get like every sale of the particular NFT or art, the artist gets a specific royalty, right? I'm not sure.
Right.
OpenSea kind of slash that, no, or they had the option to remove it now,
In
or
the
no?
following years after like the 2021, 2022 NFT boom, royalties being in question came into like this sort of like gray area where people want the artists to like get royalties because that's one of the biggest draw of like the technology
Mm-mm,
for like traditional and digital artists. But you know, collectors of like generative 10,000 PFP collections don't want to pay the extra for this particular project specifically. So it eventually became like an optional thing for artists and you know other NFT creators to have royalties baked in into their you know collections and smart contracts.
all right.
I just love to comment on what John said
Mm-mm,
about you know having UGC user generated content be part of like this core loop for people owning and you know fractionalizing royalties and ownership of like anime production. So that's like an exciting concept for me, especially being in the circles of like different conventions where fan art is like this huge thing that people you know gravitate towards too. Like every season of like anime being produced, there's new content being poured into like the fan art and merch you know, industry. Just this weekend, Philippine Game Dev Expo held their third year. We didn't get a booth this year, but I went through day three, and adjacent to them is Sticky Expo, which had like almost 100 like different booths of like artists producing their own IP, their own merch, their own OCs, and then also fan art of like the most you know beloved IPs currently in the anime industry. So I've seen that live. I've been in like different conventions, different you know, expos, just explaining to people that what you're doing could be so much more if you could, you know, tap into like the actual IP of what you're doing fan art for. And it is such an honor for a lot of them to like
mm,
even just be noticed by the author of like the manga they're doing fan art for. What more if they actually own some of that like rights or royalties to that IP being produced as an anime, right? So exciting times really. This being a possibility nowadays, it is just mind blowing for me, especially that as an artist. That
yes.
gives me so much more, you know, pride with what I'm doing. Um, knowing that I'm owning a part of like this thing that I love and you know, benefiting also by not evangelizing, you know, vocalizing my love for it, like sharing it to other people.
Yes, no, I definitely agree with you, L, on that one. That more than the I guess more than the fan participation or supporters, it actually gives a boost, most especially to the artists or to the creators, no, because you know it gives them a chance actually, no, to have their work come to life. So I think that's an important thing that we can get into in the topic that we have right now. So now, John, no, I wanted to ask to you this, and I'm sure this has been asked to you millions of times. No, of course the challenge question. No, so of course. When you explain this to us here at Bitpinas, of course, the kind of our audience gets it, no? The how the royalty will work, how the early stage participation will work. But what are the misconceptions that you have been hearing when you try to explain this to people, basically to the crypto audience, to the Web3 audience, John? And how do you explain that misconception?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions
Oops.
difference between how IP is owned, right? Like if you see how IP is owned, within American IP, right? Like you look at Transformers or things like Peaky
Mm.
Blinders and stuff like that. There's a central company that kind of owns that right. And that gets misplaced in Japan because everyone thinks, oh, this company or this author kind of owns it, right? Like you look at Harry Potter, you'll see, you know, you'll have the author kind of owning that one, and everyone else has to license out from her. In Japan, it's completely different. It's you have the author originally creating it, but they always have to partner with a publisher, right? It's like Kodansha, Shueisha, etc., right? Or Shogakukan, for example. Because they work together, and these enterprises all work together, it's all shared rights. No one owns it exclusively. Like as I was mentioning before, if you wanted domestic distribution, like TV broadcasting within Japan, and someone else has it, you can't take it. You have to go to that company specifically for that right. And if they don't allow it, then you have no access, right? It's completely different than just going to one company. You might have to go to two or three, like a mirror company, the actual author, etc., in order to talk, which makes it very, very difficult to get IP. So I don't know if you guys are ever familiar with like gaming studios or other stuff that try to work with IP. It's a 1 year plus long process usually just to negotiate with them, especially because one, they don't usually speak fluent Japanese in order to acquire the IP, right? So there always needs to be a middle ground. But if you're within a Japanese company and you're already on the production committee, it's a lot easier to actually accelerate and acquire that IP for us to kind of work on, whether it's like UGC, NFTs, or within Web3.
All right, no. So I kind of like understand on that one, and I guess yeah, you're right, no, on the way that the misconceptions actually draws on the western part or on and on the eastern part, no? So I kind of understand on that
Can I
one.
just jump off on that point?
Sure, El.
Okay. So it's funny you said that because the studio I was talking about before, like we found it was called Sobel Labs. That's a metaverse game development studio, and having worked with a sandbox and like all their partners and IPs, I realized how difficult it is to actually just work with an IP because you're not just talking to one person. You're talking to like a whole committee of like different company stakeholders for that IP specifically to have things approved. So it's funny you brought that up because it's bringing me flashbacks of like super long meetings, not just one meeting, like across a month just to get, things going. And so many people don't realize that, going on behind the scenes, they just see like, oh, partnership. There's this just
Mm-mm.
one post of like a collab. And before that collab, there's just this whole discourse of how we should go about doing things. So it's really cool to see that insight from you, John.
There's actually a difference, El, no, with partnership and collaboration. Like
Right.
I remember specifically that that a debate about that partnership is different from collaboration. So I totally get it. So John, on that note, no, so how does that work in Crossroad? For example, like L, you have already mentioned there are different companies, the author, the publisher, they're all going to work together on this one. How will it work on Crossroad? So at some point, how will it get produced? The content, the anime or the content that will be produced.
Yeah, so the anime and production will generally be produced after a certain point, regardless of our participation. But we're able to kind
Mm-mm.
of bring access to the Web3 community, right? And by us jumping in frequently, we're also allowing more IPs to kind of be moved up, right? There's like maybe a track list of upcoming IPs, and they take a certain amount of budget, certain amount of time, and it'll be produced one by one, right? There's a timeline, like summer cast season or like winter season, etc. There'll be like
Mm-mm.
10 to 20 animes produced, and then they'll be like it for the season. But there's a lot of different content, a lot of different stories that don't really make it because of that reason. So if we're able to join more, we actually add additional value and bring in more IP to life.
Okay, and
I
then
think. Oh, go ahead.
sure, yeah, go ahead.
Uh, no, go ahead first.
Yeah, because I wanted to jump in on the fact that there are some there I believe I got this idea that there are some nodes. Can you tell us more about that one? Nodes with crossroad. What are those?
Yeah, so effectively, we're thinking about having like specific anime IPs or like a basket of IPs that people can invest in, right? Like if you think of an ETF, ETFs are tied to specific companies, like let's say the FANG stocks like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, etc. Right? You invest in one and you're invested in all of them. We're kind of thinking of it like if you're able to kind of invest in a specific IP, it spreads out to all the other IPs, and we're just going to pick and
Mm,
choose with both ourselves as well as the community in order to jump in specific animes that we want to see produced. On that note, by the way, I forgot to mention that within Crossroad, we actually have a team that's dedicated just to work with IP. So we have within our team, like of course, marketing, product, business development, etc., etc. But we have people specifically focused on just gathering IP. This is whether it's negotiating with production committees, as I mentioned, or it's negotiating with legacy IPs, like ones that have already been produced, such as like I don't know Naruto, Bleach, etc. Right. That's kind of
all right.
how it's made. With the nodes, though, as you guys know, with any node sale, you're also receiving a portion of the emissions. So not only is it going to be tied to the revenue that we get from the IPs, but it's also going to be tied to the revenue that is produced by the chain itself.
All right. No, so thank you for that, no, for clarifying on that one. So now we move to the. I guess these are my final questions to you guys. But of course, if there's L, if you have question to John, or John, if you have question to L, just fire away, no. But I just wanted to look ahead, no, when it comes to Crossroad, when it comes to IPs and anime in Web3 or in Web3, as we mentioned, no. I wanted to know like how does success look like in this model, John, that you are mentioning, no? And of course, L, how would you want success look like on that model as well? So, who will start? I guess L, we start with you first. What do you think success will look like in this kind of initiative?
Um, okay, that's a loaded question. Um, Let me contextualize this. I come from a background of like just drowning in ideas.
Mm,
I've been in the design, creative space, tech, and mostly leading edge technology, eventually coming down to AI, as something that I dabble in. There's so many things in the world that, is just locked inside people's heads that, eventually just fizzle out, does not materialize. But there are very few, I mean, not very few, conceptually very few, but there's a lot of like brave, creatives who have actually gone through the next step of actually executing their ideas, and putting it out there, like in Twitter and Instagram and Pixiv and all these, forums. I see success in a platform like Crossroads being going towards more UGC. Eventually, after like the big anime, the big manga, the big like novel sales, start trickling in. Having the platform that empowers, the small creators, going from point A of like I release a draft of a light novel, and the community sees that, they back this up, they support it. That light novel becomes an illustrated graphic novel, a manga or a manhwa or a manhwa. So, or like people in the comment section are saying Finwas, like Philippine mangas or something. That support system, like your fans actively contributing to what you're creating and shaping this whole universe or this whole story from point A to point B and then eventually to an anime or to other things beyond that is what I feel what Web3, empowers and what Web3 can actually materialize. So having Crossroads be that, bridge and platform for people to launch their ideas to life and then have like people actually support it financially, and in other means is something that I'd love to see as a success story for Web3.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of that, that's actually exactly what we want to do is bring a lot of user imagination to life. It's not like we just want to work with existing IP or original IP that's being already created. we want to bring newer IP, like our own IP that's developed within the Crossroad ecosystem that could potentially match, existing ones like One Punch Man or Full Metal Alchemist or something like that. So that is, our overall like long-term vision is we want this to kind of be like a way for us to generate more IP, for us to continually build anime games and other stuff, and just have more stories in the world to work with. That's you're spot on with that. That's actually what we want to do.
Amazing.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, so now I feel bad because on my end, I thought, I mean, at the very basic thing is that the success is when the anime gets produced, no. But now from talking to you guys, of course, that's like the top funnel, but
One of the big goals.
the wider goal is to get, as El mentioned, no, to get, the small creators have a chance to shine or to have their work be supported, no. How does a light novel gets work, 'di ba? Parang it starts from a web novel, and you don't know if you're actually going to get anime, or if a publisher will even pick up your web novel, right? I believe that's how it
Right.
works before it become a light novel and then an anime. So I understand on that one, no. And I think, where's that comment? Hold on. Yes, from Kazuhide Galvez, no. If we have this, there will be no more anime where the animation feels like PowerPoint slides. So I think, there are many anime like this, no. That, it
They did do lots
doesn't
of
look
very
like
I
anime
think he
at
was
all.
anime
Yeah.
commenting about the anime I was mentioning about TBATE
at the
because they
beginning
did that
of the game.
anime
Yes.
so dirty, man. You guys have no
Yeah.
idea. But I just wanted to correct something. Within the production committee, the animes that we bring up for investment are already going to be produced. We're just giving users the opportunity. So it's not like
Yep.
a success case is it becomes an anime, it will become an anime. We're just letting you get in before it is produced. So it's like the opportunity to invest in an anime before it actually gets animated. We're going to be the only
Right.
ones that will be able to do that.
All right. But of course, John, you did mention earlier that at some point you will actually have the data on what actually Western fans want, right? I believe you mentioned that one instead of them relying on the Japanese market only or my anime list. I believe that's one of the things, no, that you guys will be doing.
Yes, yes, it'll just
Mm-mm.
allow us to kind of be more specific about what type
Mm-mm.
of animes will get invested in and eventually produced. But basically, the ones that we kind of select are likely to be produced. It's just we're gonna be picky about which ones we decide to collect on.
All right. All right. Thank you for that one, no. So I guess, okay, time check 8:57. This is actually my final question to you guys, no. And then after that our closing remarks. But of course, final question, what do you think is the one thing that anime fans or creatives, what do you want them to understand? What is the one thing that you want them to understand about what's possible with the technology, with Web3 that you guys are doing, no? Not just with you with Cosmo, John, no, but of course El, no, with Web3 as well. What do you want anime fans to understand about this? We go with L and then the next one with John, so you can close with Crossroad too.
Um, being in this space for quite a bit, I've ran into like many different scenarios where I'm on stage talking about like what Web3 is, what NFTs are, what the metaverse is, and how blockchain works. The
Mm-mm.
biggest misconception, especially for artists and creatives, is that when they hear NFTs, it's like this, get rich quick scam that, is being peddled back in 2021, 2022. It's closely associated with like play to earn, like with crypto, when it's not exactly that. Like it's just one part of like this big mesh of like Web3. So going into like what Crossroads is, like what an anime platform, like what a community platform for something like supporting artists and creators could look like. It try to forget everything that has been in the news, like has been in the headlines, has been in the murmurs across all GCs of what Web3 is, because chances are it's very, not rose colored, something like a tint of like not the actual thing. So it could be this thing, it could be that thing, but un, unless you actually like look into it, like read up on what that platform does or like what that platform do, you won't really know. So
Mm.
having this inquisitive like mind of like what does your platform do, like having that first foot in the door, like asking that question, that's what I'm asking like all my creative friends and artists. Just keep an open mind. It doesn't always equate to like cryptocurrency, doesn't always equate to NFTs. It could be, but unless you ask what the platform is, you won't know.
Yeah. Perfect. No, well said, El. No. How about you, John? On that final note, no, what is the one thing that you want creatives or anime fans to understand about what's possible with what you guys are doing at Crossroad with Web3?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I want any anime fan to know is now that you're able to kind of be involved with Crossroad, you are able to kind of join in with not just like the animes you know and love, but some of the major people behind it. Some of the most interesting,
Mm.
parts of Crossroad is the fact that we're onboarding studios, we're onboarding legendary artists, legendary creators to kind of be on board. Like, for example, our ambassador is actually pretty well known. His name is Makoto Kimura. He is part of Mappa Studios, which, if you guys are familiar with any of the larger animes, is one of the
Since
most well-known studios in the world. Right. We're
Mm-hmm.
also really good friends with quite a bunch of creatives. Some legendary like kaiju artists, original creators of Macross. Some of the guys from Final Fantasy. Conan, like Naruto, Bleach, all of like the legendary ones. We are involved in some way, shape, or form. For example, Anaplex is actually one of their studios is actually working with us on the Crossroads side as well. So Anaplex is derived from Sony Pictures, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
one of the largest companies out of Japan. And we will be having a lot of offline presence as well. So it's not just getting involved on the digital side. We want to bring Crossroad and Japanese anime outside of that, not just like through the typical like digital content or games, but we will also be present at a lot of the animation conventions. So you'll be able to see how we can give digital rewards, how you can interact with some of your favorite artists, how you can potentially participate or even like vote and rate on the animes that you have owned. So we'll be at things like Anime Expo, for example.
All right. No, so I think I just found my other calling, no, apart from writing about crypto in the Philippines. But that is really very interesting, John. No, thank you for mentioning that, and the fact that you guys are already working with some of the more prominent artists and studios and IPs means actually that this thing is actually legitimate and it's actually going to happen. So yeah, Anime Expo. I believe this is in the US, correct?
yep.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, so that's it now for our webcast tonight. Thank you guys for joining our webcast, Bitpinas webcast. Our audience, I hope you give thanks no to our guest tonight, to John and to El for lending their time, their 1 hour with us here on our
I think we
I
couldn't
think his
hear.
mic cut off, but
Yeah.
I think while we
yes,
wait for his mic, thanks for having me, and El, thanks for being a phenomenal co-host.
yes, that one. No. So anything else that you would like to add and any anything that you would like to announce before we go? El, you start with you.
Yeah, thank you for having us, man. It's been an awesome experience, like talking to
Yeah.
John,
Mm-mm.
especially what he's doing with Crossroads and having that, opportunity to see anime and Web3, something I both love. Um, come into just one thing. So we three strong. Follow me well across all social medias at EL Bonuan or my studio, this one at Maiba Studio, in X, IG, wherever. I'll be around like different conventions, different expos, different stuff in Web3 and the creative scene. So if you see me, just say hi. Cheers.
All right, thank you, El. See you in real life very soon. So, how about you, John? Any final words and anything that you would like to announce?
Yeah, a lot of announcements will be coming soon. We have a lot planned within the next month, so please follow us on Twitter. We're pretty active on Discord. I actually talk a lot about anime in there too. So yeah, please join our community, hang out with us, keep updated, and just know that if you guys join, you're one of the first. And we're really excited to kind of take anime to the next level, and we think with Crossroad, it can be the next major player.
All right, now so thank you, John. Thank you all for joining this episode of the Bit Pinas webcast. Thank you for your time, our guests. Thank you to our Bit Pinas staff, to Lance, to Nate, to Sheila, and my partner Aya is watching. This is Michael of Bit Pinas. Abangan nyo sa aming Facebook page. Meron kaming survey form. Ano mang isasagot nyo doon, of course, can help us improve this webcast. So makita-kita tayo ulit next week. We will have a very exciting episode as well. Maraming salamat at magandang gabi sa lahat. Thank you!